Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to Lunchtime Poetry. My name is Lorie, and I'm the teen librarian at Manlius Library. And today I'm going to read some poetry for you from a book called The Fairy Reel, Tales from the Twilight Realm. And this is a collection of stories and poetry all about fairies and the fairy world, the fairy reel, the fairy realm. And there's some pretty well-known authors in this book. Holly Black, Nan Fry, Neil Gaiman, Tanith Lee, and so on and so forth. And I'm going to read you 3 poems from this book. The first one is called The Boys of Goose Hill, and it's by Charles DeLint. There's a place called Goose Hill, and the boys that live there are such tricksters and foxes that none can compare. Malkin's their mother, and she's the white rose of May, and Mabon's their father, tally-ho and away. When the kettle boils over, or the wheels fall from your cart, you're pinched from your sleep, or the fire won't start. When the hens won't lay eggs, or there's knots in your hair, be sure that the boys of Goose Hill have been there. They're the bees in the heather that call up the spring when bonfires blaze from every stone ring. They're teasing and canny, though they mean no great ill, those pucks of the midden, the boys of Goose Hill. They're the wind in the field when the harvesters come, and the corn dollies dance to the songs that they've sung. There's a hare on the slopes and a stag higher still, and a wren harping tunes for the boys of Goose Hill. Now the boys of Goose Hill, they know all the old tunes. They can call up a mist, they can drink down the moon. Take a hagstone for luck and a dram for the cold. Turn your coat inside out if you want your own road. There's a health to the horn that the old man once wore, and the May, bonny May, and the last sheaf of corn. Here's a health to the green man, and a health to the moon, and to the boys of Goose Hill that call up the tune. And that is The Boys of Goose Hill by Charles DeLint. The next one I'm going to read is by Nan Fry, and it's called How to Find Fairy. Watch and honor your cat when his green eyes look through and beyond you. Do the same for your dog when she sniffs and barks at invisible things. Find a beech forest or even one tree. Stand under it and listen. The rushing you hear will be wind in the leaves or the murmur of elves. Take a bath in the moonlight where moonbeams touch the water's skin. Sometimes a nixie will swim. Go to the shore and watch the tide ebb at sunrise or sunset. Notice how the wet sand holds the sky's hues of mauve and coral. Gradually the light brightens or fades and the sand returns to its own color. Even so, the world of fairy washes over this one, then recedes. Here and there a shell gleams. Pick up the shell and go home. If it fades in the dry light of day, shine it with your own spit as a sign of the magic within you that rises to meet the world's darkness and flash. And that is How to Find Fairy by Nan Fry. And finally, I'm going to read the titular poem of this book. It's called The Fairy Reel, and it's by Neil Gaiman. If I were young as once I was, and dreams and death more distant then, I wouldn't split my soul in two and keep half in the world of men. So half of me would stay at home and strive for fairy in vain, while all the while my soul would stroll up narrow path down crooked lane. And there would meet a fairy lass, and smile and bow with kisses 3. She'd pluck wild eagles from the air, and nail me to a lightning tree. And if my heart would run from her, or flee from her, be gone from her, she'd wrap it in a nest of stars, and then she'd take it on with her. Until one day she'd tire of it, all bored with it and done with it. She'd leave it by a burning brook, and off brown boys would run with it. They'd take it and have fun with it, and stretch it long and cruel and thin. They'd slice it into 4, and then they'd string with it a violin. And every day and every night they'd play upon my heart a song, so plaintive and so wild and strange that all who heard it danced along, and sang and whirled and sank and trod, and skipped and slipped and reeled and rolled. until with eyes as bright as coals, they'd crumble into wheels as gold, wheels of gold. But I am young no longer now, for 60 years my heart's been gone, to play its dreadful music there beyond the valley of the sun. I watch with envious eyes and mind the single-souled who dare not feel the wind that blows beyond the moon, who do not hear the fairy reel. If you don't hear the fairy reel, they will not pause to steal your breath. When I was young, I was a fool, so wrap me up in dreams and death. And that's The Fairy Reel by Neil Gaiman. And this is poetry from the book, The Fairy Reel. Tales from the Twilight Realm. It's a wonderful book. Thanks for joining me. I hope that you enjoyed today's fantastical poetry. My name is Lorie. I'm the teen librarian at Manlius Library, and you can find me here every weekday in April, which is just the rest of this week, for more poetry in celebration of National Poetry Month. I'll see you next time. Happy poetry.